to another episode of Tipsy Tuesday Slice of Pie. It's Chef Defco, and I'm back with my friend Chuck. Chuck, I'm glad you came back.
Of course. I was unfortunately rather preoccupied last time I was supposed to show up.
Well, all right. So I want to start out by, first off, this episode, we're going to touch on something we started talking about before, I think it was during the holidays. Now my brain is all scrambled.
It was.
Before anybody gets any further, I am trying to follow some YouTube guidelines. So if I don't say the word suicide a lot, that's what's happening. So I said it once and there it is. But I want to make sure that we don't take away from that, because I'm really big on, you got to say it. So YouTube police, I'm sorry, but we're going to have to talk about it today. And so Chuck, I'm glad that you're back to talk to us about what your organization does, and we're going to dig into a little bit deeper. For those of y'all who, I know a lot of people watch the replay, so we do appreciate you watching the replay. Like the video so that more people can get to see the video. We definitely want to get this information out to our veteran community here in the US. So just please make sure that, also drop a comment if you want to get in touch with the organization. We can help you do that as well. We just want to make sure that you're hearing what we have and what the organization has to help you out. So with that, I am so happy you're back, because I think, one of the things that we touched on prior around the holiday time was this misnomer that it was that time of year. And we talked about, for our veterans who might be in a place of depression, or where they're feeling really lonely, and all of those feelings, all of those things, right? It wasn't necessarily about the holiday season. It was after that. It was after that, and during basically times like this, right? Where the communities have, quite frankly, have moved on from the kumbaya feelings, and people aren't bringing pot roast to veterans. Those activities have shifted now. And so then what? So I think this is such a perfect time to have you come back and talk about your organization. So why don't you reintroduce, tell us a little bit more about how you even got involved, and what does your organization do?
Sure. So I retired from the Army in 2017. Spent most of my career in special operations, either on the ground in the Ranger Regiment, or as a helicopter pilot. So when I retired, I had a very, very smooth transition, which is not what all veterans will say. I ended up getting a job doing business development for L3 Harris, which I didn't even apply for until the day before I got the job offer. So it was one of those weird things. They were looking for someone with my background. So I did that for about a year and a half. And I spent probably 80-90% of my time on the road, in the airport, in the hotel. It's not really what I retired for. Didn't want to be away. My son was 5 at the time, and still growing up. So I reached out to a buddy that it's been a longtime friend, and I said, dude, I gotta find something different. This is not fulfilling. It's not meaningful. And he connects me with Nick Black, who's one of the co-founders of Stop Soldier Suicide. And I consider myself, I was blissfully unaware at the time. Consider myself fortunate. I only knew of one active duty service member that killed himself. And after talking with Nick for 5 minutes, I'm like, Nick, I don't know how or where, but I'm in. So find a place. And about 6 months later, it took him a little while to create a position, but I stayed in touch and I learned what I could. And then my first day was March 2nd of 2020 to be the community affairs manager.
Wow.
My initial charter was to develop kind of a grassroots effort here in North Carolina. But as I'm sure you can imagine, about March 12th, my community kind of went away. So I changed a lot of what I was trying to do, and I developed more kind of strategic outreach to other partner organizations across the country. Focusing on some of the larger organizations that interact with a lot of veterans that, may raise their hand and say, I need help, but the organization may not have a great solution. Even looking at some of the largest, veteran nonprofits, if you ask them what do they do when somebody says, I'm in a really bad spot.
Yeah.
What do they do besides the, Veterans Crisis Line or 988 or there's not a
That's
lot of
right.
great options. And then there's the veterans have some preconceived notions about quality of care for some of their options. So um, I've been here almost 3 years now, and I'm not going anywhere because what we're doing is working.
Wow, I love that. And I think one of this, first of all, I forgot to mention thanking you for your service because you didn't have to choose the field that you're in, and but you did, and obviously we're all appreciative of your past service, but you're serving now as well, and the fact that you have such heart for the veteran community, it kind of shows up in the work that you do. And I think everyone remembers what 2020 was like. A lot of us are pretending like it didn't happen, but to join the organization even in that time frame, and then having to shift the way that you do your outreach, shift the way that you build your community, and the way that you communicate to veterans, that is like that, and watching what's happening now with the organization is one of those what we call best case or best practices of how do you do it right, because there's a lot of noise, especially on social media. So one of the things that we were chatting about is the impact with social media and how do you build out community. And quite frankly, I wanted to find out, how do you reach your audience? How do you reach veterans on social media? So what are some of the things that you had to shift to do now because of, after 2020? Like, what are some of the things that you've had to do to reach your veteran community?
Well, to be honest, we didn't have to shift a whole lot of how we're doing things when 2020 came along. We were doing telehealth before telehealth was cool.
Yeah.
Our headquarters is based in Durham, North Carolina, but we were serving veterans in all 50 states. So one of the aspects that really interested me about our organization was how much we relied on data, and then how, even though we're a nonprofit, we go after, I don't say go after, we do client acquisition very much the same way that a for-profit does. So it's kind of like if you Google a word and then, lo and behold, within 15 minutes, you have advertising scrolling on your phone about what you were just looking up. You're like, how did this happen? Well, it's the
Yeah.
same thing. Like, I mean, to show how serendipitous it was, I even found the organization. My headquarters is like 4.5 miles from where I live. Like, I never knew about Stop Soldier Suicide as an organization. But there's probably a reason for that, because our marketing team is very proactive about going after and reaching the veteran proactively. Like, we don't want to be an organization that we like put a flag in the ground and say, all right, veterans, come to us, we're ready for you. We do everything that we can using, for-profit techniques to acquire veterans and to constantly learn. It's a constant iterative process of what keywords are working well, what phrases, what colors, what tones, everything. We're constantly looking at what works. And, so using some geofence advertising on Facebook, using Google Analytics, figuring out the words that work well at client acquisition, we're constantly able to refine and get better and better at acquiring the right client for us.
I love that. And so then it's very targeted. So it's not a matter of just like a drop cloth where everyone, kind of, what I mean? You kind of get the dust bug of everybody's in the group. It's very, very targeted and specific. And I think that is part of why you're having so much success, because you're literally delivering services to the people who need it. It's not like
Exactly.
it's not a sales push. It's not a marketing effort. It's literally delivering services to the people who need it. So I wanted to find out, when we think about the approach and the care that your organization, can you talk about maybe a couple of what does it look like for mental health, or how do you resource or do referrals? Like, what does the experience look like for a veteran?
Okay, so there's a couple different ways a veteran could get connected with us. The first is our 24/7 number. I'll post in the chat here in a little bit, but it's 844-907-1342, and they can call that 24/7. The phone will be answered by a professional crisis call center that will assess whether or not they're in crisis or not. Like if they absolutely have to involve outside entities to make somebody safe in crisis,
Yeah.
do that. However, we really try not to. We really try to just do a kind of initial assessment to determine level of risk and take down some basic contact information. And then the next day, within 24 business hours, they'll get a call back from a scheduling assistant that will work with their schedule, figure out what day works best, what time works best, whatever it may be, to connect with one of our wellness coordinators. So that will be kind of the beginning of the journey with a wellness coordinator. The second avenue is through our website at stopsoldiersuicide.org. There's a big red button on the top that says Get Help. And you can click Get Help and it'll say, is this for you or for somebody else? So if it's for you, you fill out the basic demographic information, a few questions, and you click Submit. 24/7, when you hit Submit, within 15 minutes, you'll get a phone call from that same crisis agency that is our 24/7 number. Take down the same information and they go from there. The third option is our third-party referral. So when it says, is this for you or for somebody else, it's not uncommon for a spouse or a loved one to realize that something is really amiss and, their loved one needs help. And they're just struggling to take that next step to get help. So if you click for others, you answer a few questions. What are you concerned about? And then again, you'll get a call back, and just due to privacy laws and some HIPAA requirements, we can't proactively reach out to the veteran, which is, for me personally, frustrating. I'd love to just call them, but we have to respect their privacy. So we talk to the third party and just try to get the loved one on the other line. Say, hey, are they in the other room by any chance? Can we talk with them? And then we get their consent to reach out to them, and then it begins the whole process of becoming a client of ours.
That is such an incredible point that, again, it is not just the veteran that can contact your organization. It's also a spouse or child or, someone who's an adult living with that person. And I think that's really key, because there are situations where, quite frankly, as a spouse or a sibling, maybe you don't want to call 911. You're just trying to find a resource that will help that family member or that friend. So I love that the organization offers those two ways to, to get your family and your friends and get people involved to help you find the care that you need. So that is huge. I dropped a little note. I grabbed it from the site, but I just want to make sure that you guys know you'll be connected with a wellness coordinator who provides that personalized. And obviously, we shouldn't need to say it, but I'll make sure we say that it is confidential. Okay.
That's huge.
It's confidential. Yeah.
So if you look at active duty, there are certain reporting requirements that active duty soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and Coasties, and Space Force, they all need to, like, the chain of command has certain mandatory reporting requirements. So that's a challenge. Like, I spend most of my time on flight status. Like, if I was in a bad spot and I raised my hand and said, I'm having thoughts of harming myself, there goes my flight status until I get well.
That's right.
There's so much unknown. Like, how long do I lose my flight status? What does this do to my security clearance? I mean, there's so much to it. That confidentiality is huge. We have clients that are members of, we'll just call them 3-letter agencies across the US, that they're multiple ones. That confidentiality is 100% critical to them. And will never breach that confidentiality, no matter, we're not beholden to DOD, we're not beholden to the VA or the government. So even if they say, well, we want your data, you're like, no, sorry, can't help you.
I love that. And I think people really appreciate that, going somewhere where you're getting the help, and quite frankly, your confidentiality, and also the way you make a living, right? Because I don't want to reach out for help only to get, get something taken from me. Then it's not help, right?
Exactly.
Then it's not help. Yeah, then it's not help. Yep. Something I saw, I see this a lot because I do follow the organization on Facebook and all social media platforms, are the challenges that you guys put out So can you talk a little bit about that? Because I think that is so cool when you're thinking about how other people can get involved and support the organization. So can you talk about what are these challenges?
So the challenges are the brainchild of our growth team. I can't take any credit for that, but it was a direct result of the pandemic. Like prior to that, nonprofits, we kind of had a standard operating procedure for fundraising. We do events and gatherings, and there's usually a component of getting together. Uh,
Yeah.
but when we couldn't get together anymore, we're like, I mean, the whole growth team was kind of looking at each other in the mirror, like, "Uh-oh, what do we do now?"
What do we do?
Nobody knew it was going to happen. So we started kind of brainstorming. Well, they started brainstorming, and they came up with the idea of a challenge. Like, well, everybody's isolated, but they can still get outdoors. How do we do something that keeps them involved, keeps them active with a cause and a mission that they can all get behind?
Yeah.
We're like, okay, let's do a 10-mile challenge. And 10 miles fell flat in his face. We're like, okay, let's do a 25-mile challenge. 25-mile didn't do anything. And they were like, okay, 100 miles it is. So that's how we came up with these 100-mile challenges, and they just literally exploded. Like we went from nowhere on the map of a nonprofit organization to one of the top 10 fundraising organizations in 1 year. Just because
Wow.
it was incredible. Like the amount of support and the amount of interaction, and it really gives people like a sense of ownership. Like,
Yeah.
I'm doing my part. I mean, everybody's seen the 22 push-ups a day and all that, and filming themselves doing push-ups, but unfortunately push-ups don't save lives. But somebody getting behind an effort to raise money that can help us hire more wellness coordinators and to grow our team so we can have more professional clinical care for veterans, that's life-saving. And it's been a direct correlation between the money raised and how fast we've grown. So when we shut down in 2020, I was employee number 19, and we're upwards of about 80 to 85 right now.
Wow.
So that is how we've been able to grow. Like we are no longer just clinicians in North Carolina. We have licensed clinicians in strategic states where the majority of veterans live, where veterans have predominantly died by their own hand. So it's been a really exciting time to be part of the team, to see it grow. And the challenges are just like part one, and we've continued to iterate, get more creative with types of challenges, and you'll see other nonprofits doing the same thing now.
Yeah.
It's
I have noticed that.
Yeah, it's starting to become a thing.
Yeah, so you guys kick something off, and I think the other thing about the challenges, these are challenges that you can get. This is another way for you to get your families involved. So I dropped the Facebook page for the organization in the chat, and for those of y'all who are on Facebook, you already would have seen it. But just go check it out, because this is just, it's a great way to support the organization. It's a great way for your own health, right? To get out and be physical and do something. And you just never know, if you're looking for what else can you do to support a veteran, this is it, right? So don't wait until the time of year when we focus on Veterans Day. Please don't do that. All year, every day, you should be doing something to support these men and women who are literally giving their lives so that we can enjoy the lives we have. And this is just one of those ways that you can pitch in, quite frankly, and help out.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. And it's a cause that, like I said, I didn't expect to get behind, but the more I learned about it, the more personal it became. My wife's a veteran. My son's godfather's a veteran. So many of my friends and family members are veterans. And the biggest takeaway that I've learned with being here for almost 3 years is that nobody's untouchable.
Yes.
There was a ranger that died by suicide 2 weeks ago. He wrote a book on resiliency. He lost a leg in combat, got a prosthetic leg, got put back on duty in the Ranger Regiment, and he's dead.
Yeah.
And if you ever wanted an image of what resilience,
like a poster child. Yeah.
No. So nobody's untouchable. And no matter how good you think somebody's life is going, they could have the dream life set up. And it's so unfortunate to see so many times. I mean, a full bird colonel, the CGSC commander, he had retirement paperwork in hand. He just beautiful life. And it's just such a tragedy. So it became very personal, very quick. And when I started to really see the impact we're having, that we're saving lives. I mean, our
Yes.
biggest challenge right now is getting to veterans and getting veterans to come to us. Like we got the service model down. I mean, knock on wood, we to date have served almost 4,000 veterans, and we haven't lost any current or former clients to suicide. And that's going back through the National Death Index and the NBDRS.
Wow.
So we've bounced databases back and forth against each other. We know that it's working. It's just like, how do we break down the stigma? How do we get them connected? Because what we're doing is working.
I love that, and it goes back to the community. You know, I'm on social media a lot, and I'm, you know, it is part of what I have to do, right? Because you have to get awareness out and all those things. And so, for those of you all who are like me, if you're scrolling down through YouTube, you're looking for something to do, please go join this organization and find something to do. They literally, I mean, you literally can find a way to link in, no pun intended, into what this organization is doing. And also for a lot of us who know veterans. So if you know a veteran, you're a spouse of a veteran, you're a daughter, a father, whatever, right? If you're connected to a veteran, I'm also thinking about folks who watch my shows who are church leaders. Y'all have veterans in your congregation. This is one way that, again, please don't wait until Veterans Day, but this is one way that you can get information to your veterans in the veteran community. And I also know I have community leaders across this country who watch these shows, who reach out to me. This is a way that you can get involved and do something other than a beautiful post, right? Put some action behind and drive veterans to, let them know that there is a resource, there is help available, and it's confidential, and they'll get what they need. So I wanted to round back and just find out, like, what are some of the things that might be coming up this year, or what are some of the things that you're excited about doing this year?
Oh boy. Two really big, exciting things. One is kind of like my special project. It's not my special project, but I happen to have named it just because of my aviation.
Oh, okay.
So it was during my interview process. They were talking about this kind of idea that they've been talking about. They had this guy in a team that was an expert, and they were talking me through it. I'm like, oh, that sounds like a black box. And the chief was like, I like it. Black box it is. So, like, prior to the 1950s, if an airplane would crash and there was no survivors and no witness, you're at the mercy of an accident investigator to kind of put the pieces back together, right? Like, was it foggy? Was who knows? You're kind of half guessing at some point. When they invented the black box, which is a cockpit voice recorder and a flight data recorder, and a little piece of trivia: the black box is actually orange.
What?
Yeah, right orange.
I didn't know that.
Right orange. So you can find it in an accident scene. Yeah, it's fireproof, it's waterproof, down to thousands of feet. So the orange box or black box, that collects all the data leading up to the accident. What were pilots saying to each other? What was air traffic control? What was the weather? What were the flight, the control surfaces? What were the power settings? Every little bit of detail. So you can put a crash back together again using the data, and you can apply it to other aviation, learnings, so you don't have a similar accident again. So this expert that they told me about early on, he specialized in, it's called open source intelligence techniques. So you take devices, so phones, laptops, smart devices, and you scrape all the data off of them, and you upload it into a cloud. And then using machine learning and AI, we're able to recreate the final seconds, minutes, and months of a veteran's life that died by suicide.
Wow.
So we've partnered with AWS. Might have heard of them.
Yeah.
And they're providing our machine learning and AI. And it's extremely exciting, really encouraging, because, like, up to this point, if somebody dies, they will, the Department of Defense or the Veterans Affairs, they'll send in a team. They'll conduct what they call psychological autopsy. Psych autopsy, they're talking to family members, talking to friends, they're looking at social media posts, they're looking at what's
Yeah.
publicly available, right? It's like
Yeah.
it's their outward facing persona. But with this device that goes with you everywhere, I mean, that's your inward facing persona. What websites are you going to at 3 a.m?
Yes. Yeah.
What's your physical activity tracker? Like, we've been able to, in a very short period of time, been able to make a positive correlation between insomnia, because you're working a 9 to 5 job, but you're up from 1 a.m. to 4 a.m. scrolling on your device. That's not
Yeah.
normal. So it's just a really exciting opportunity, and we hope that we're not saying we're going to predict suicide, because any suicidologist and expert in the field would like to call it a fool's errand.
Yeah.
One of the doctors on our scientific advisory committee said that's a fool's errand. You're never going to predict suicide. And we understand that, but it's like we're not going to prevent airplane crashes. No one can prevent airplane crashes, but we can get more data. We can get more information to get much smarter at how do you not have airplane crashes? What are some control measures that can protect your veteran family? And we hope that once you go beyond the veteran space, how can we apply it to teens? How can we apply it to first responders, LGBTQ? I mean, there's going to be a little bit of learning for each one.
Yeah.
Like, we have to do sentiment analysis, with outbound messages and inbound messages. That's unique for veterans. Veterans tend to have bad language. So we've had to teach the sentiment analysis machine that certain words are not as bad.
Yeah.
But it's going to be the same for any subset of a population. We're going to have to learn from them and figure it out. But there's just a huge potential. The second really exciting thing is we did a very extended brand review.
Okay.
So I was still in the interview process, and I said, you know that Marines don't like being called soldiers, right? And they're like, "Yep, we know." I was like, so we serve all veterans, not just Army soldiers? Like, yes. So Stop Soldier Suicide is a fundraising arm, if you will.
Right.
It's really effective. It's mission driven. It's the clear statement up front. But it's a challenge for client acquisition. Like, if I'm not an Army soldier, or if I'm not somehow associated with being a soldier, like, is it really inclusive? I don't know. And then the other word.
That's a good point, because if you're Air Force, I wouldn't connect. I would think, okay, maybe there's a different organization for me.
Right. And then so I don't get you in YouTube police trouble, the S word.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
That's a second barrier.
That's right.
We proactively reach out to us, finally say, I need help. And then they have to hide it from their loved ones because they don't want to talk about being at risk for the S word.
That's right.
Right. So
that's right.
We didn't partner. We hired a brand agency that did a very in-depth review, many focus groups, interviews, all that stuff that they do. And they determined that our brand wasn't great for client acquisition, which we unfortunately kind of knew. So they proposed a new brand that we did a soft launch last summer. And the soft launch was like incredibly successful, like more so than we even expected. Like in 2 months, we had as many clients from this brand new brand from the floor up as we did for Stop Soldier Suicide. So like an equal number of clients had come in, and we learned that we had younger clients, more TBIs, more PTSD. They were much more likely to reveal their root trauma than somebody that reached out to us at the SSS number.
Okay.
Because there was a preconceived notion, like, okay, if I'm calling SSS, they know that I
means
these certain things.
Yeah.
With all this other one, that doesn't, I don't want to reveal it just yet. We'll have to say that for later.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, I need to know when it goes live. I need to know.
I will be sure to tell you. We're so excited because it's so effective at getting the people. And it's a softer launch. There's no red, white, and blue. There's no full battle. It's just, veterans are just everyday people. Like,
that's right.
Everyday lives. We just happen to have been exposed to, some of us have been exposed to much different things than anybody else.
Yeah.
Half of our clients have never even been to combat or even deployed. Like, I have a bunch of combat deployments, and I had a preconceived notion about what a typical veteran would look like in our care. I couldn't have been further from the truth. Like, half of our clients have never deployed. There's a lot of military sexual trauma, male and female. I mean, childhood trauma, it's just so complex. Suicide in and of itself is very complex. But the typical demographics that you think are not the ones that are necessarily in our care. So it's the new brand. SSS will still always be SSS.
Okay.
But the new brand will really be kind of the outward facing brand that it'd be much easier for you to have a conversation. You're sitting on a bus and you're sitting next to this veteran and he's just, listing out so many of these risk factors that you know of.
Yeah.
Like, why don't you call this
blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Oh, I love that.
Yeah. It's really exciting. So probably Q2 of this year, it'll be, there's a lot of work to be done from a technological standpoint of changing email addresses and phone numbers and all that, but it's on its way. So fingers crossed.
Well, we're excited about that because it also means that you're going to reach more veterans who need the help, quite frankly, at the end of the day, right? It is about reaching veterans and getting them the help they need. So, all right. So before we close this out, I know you had some other information, so you can drop that in the chat at really any time because we'll be able to. Let me go to my little private special chat.
I meant to send that earlier.
No, I'm going to grab this because, again, I want to make sure that everyone who is watching live or replay, wherever you're coming in from, that you have this information. So I'm just going to pop it up here, but basically just so you know, it's just the contact information where you can get more info. You can also go to the website. You can email Chuck. If you are a veteran and you're like, I can't figure out where to go, I'm on LinkedIn all day long. So you're welcome to ping me or ping Chuck. He's under Charles Eastman on LinkedIn. You're welcome to ping us and we will get you the information that you need. So please don't make an excuse for why you shouldn't go to this organization. Don't make it harder than it is, right? Just reach out and we will get you what you need.
Yeah, and coming from a veteran, I can tell you that what we're doing is working. I would refer family members if I had to. I've referred friends. I have referred prior crew chiefs that I served with in the Army. I don't do that lightly, and I take that responsibility very seriously. So like I said, my email address is in there. If you ever have any questions, never hesitate to reach out. Maybe if you could just reference that you heard me on the podcast and I might but always happy to chat further. And if there's any organizations that might be listening that want to learn more, or any individuals that are curious about the process and I may have not covered enough, I'm always happy to talk about that. Awesome.
This was so great. I do really honestly appreciate that you made a second trip back because this is really important. Of all the podcasts that we've done, I think there's over 70 because we do this twice a week for the most part. The ones around teens and the ones around veterans on this particular subject, this is really why we started. Quite frankly, this is the why behind everything that we're doing. So I am so grateful for your service. Please, thank you. Say thank you to both of your CEOs and tell everybody there we are so proud of everything that you're doing and please keep it going. We're going to be sending folks your way. And again, I'm just really grateful for you.
Well, thank you very much, Shelly. I really appreciate you highlighting this. It is such an important topic. So I encourage anybody to get help if they need it. There's nothing wrong with it. So thanks for just keeping an open dialogue and open conversation and breaking down one barrier at a time.
One barrier at a time, exactly. All right, so Chuck, hang out for a few minutes. We're gonna be in the back room, but we'll tell everyone, if I can get my outro together, we will tell the people. Thank y'all so much for watching and love, like, and share. Whoever's watching this, please make sure you like the video. All right, so we can get the information out to more veterans. All right, thanks everybody.